The clock read 3:14 a.m., and the bluish glow of 6 monitors was the only light in that cold 22nd floor apartment. I could taste the metallic temps of reheated coffee in the back of my throat as I watched. In real time, the candlestick chart melted wiping out 3 months of profit in a single revenge trade. My right hand was trembling slightly over the mouse mat out of fear of losing the money, but from the paralyzing terror of realizing that after 5 years of studying every technical indicator in existence, I was still a pathetic slave to my own impulses. That night, I didn't just close the platform. I closed the door on who I had been until then. I understood that the market isn't a price chart, but a meat grinder designed to sniff out character flaws and punish them with poverty. The naked truth, the one you try to ignore while drawing is that you aren't fighting a big bank's algorithm or a whale in Dubai. You are in a war of attrition against a 200,000-year-old ancestor living inside your head. This guy, your primitive self, wants to survive, wants to be right, and wants to flee from pain at any cost. The problem is, on the financial board, these instincts are exactly what lead you straight to bankruptcy. Most traders operate in a reactive short circuit where every price move triggers a cortisol spike that overrides any shred of logic. The technical error, that poorly placed stop, or the late entry driven by fear, is just the final symptom of a much deeper identity wound. The point is, you feel a visceral need to be right. When the market proves, with red numbers, that you are dead wrong, your ego interprets it as a physical attack-on assault. So you double down. You try to get revenge on the chart, but the market is a cruel master. It doesn't teach with gentle lessons. It asks you questions through losses until you admit your own arrogance. This relentless hunt for the Holy Grail, the perfect strategy, or the magic indicator is actually an escape. It's your brain trying to avoid the responsibility of facing its own reflection in the brokerage mirror. You don't lose money because of a lack of technical analysis. The math of trading is, at its core, quite simple. You lose because your self-esteem is dangerously tied to your account balance. If the balance goes up, you feel like a genius. If it goes down, you feel like trash. And it's in this emotional swing that the market eats you alive. To break this cycle, you must understand that the chart is not a representation of value, but a CT scan of collective greed and fear. And right now, you are just another cell infected by that pathology. The system is broken. But it's not the broker's system, it's your mental operating system, still running on Savannah survival drivers while trying to navigate modern chaos. The truth no one wants to swallow is that the market knows exactly where your ego is, and it will hammer that spot until you break or shed your skin. That change begins when you realize that the illusion of control is the amorous opium. If you believe studying 10 more hours will let you predict the unpredictable, you've already lost the game before the first click. Chaos is the only constant, and what you see on the screen is just your reflection staring back at you. The central point you need to swallow, and it hurts like hell to admit, is that there is an identity dissonance, corroding every cent in your account. You wake up, put on the professional trader persona, open the platform, and swear today will be different. That the plan will be followed to the letter. But then, at the first 5-minute candle that tests your patience and goes against your position, that sophisticated professional event, the one taking the wheel is throwing a tantrum or worse. An ancestor who hunted mammoths and is now in total panic because he interprets a loss as a real threat of starvation. The naked truth is that the financial market is the most brutal lie detector humanity ever invented. It doesn't give a damn about your chart. It wants your soul. The market sniffs out your ego, that almost childish need to be right just to prove something to yourself or others, and it will hit that bruise until you crack. The chart isn't a price line, it's a mirror. If your personal life is a mess, your trade history will be garbage. If you are greedy and can't wait, your entries will be rushed and your stops will be too tight, practically begging to be hit. And here's where the biological danger lies. We are programmed to see patterns where there is only a void. It's pure survival instinct. On the savannah, if you heard a rustle in the grass and thought it was a predator, even if it was just the wind, you stayed alive. In trading, that same wiring makes you see an uptrend in the middle of random noise just to sustain a little lie that makes you feel safe for a few minutes. But that safety is a total hallucination. That illusion of control is the amateur's opium. We gorge ourselves on courses, put colorful indicators on the screen, and hunt breaking news thinking that if we know everything, we can predict the future. But look, the market doesn't exactly want your money, it's just how it keeps score. What it really wants is your peace. It feeds on your anxiety, on the doubt that gnaws at you from the inside, and on your mental exhaustion. And it can only take your peace if you hand it over on a silver platter every time you click a button out of pure impulse. Your mental operating system is running on thousand-year-old drivers. You are trying to run high-frequency software using emotional hardware designed to outrun saber-toothed tigers. Until you update that internal code, no miracle setup will dig you out of the hole. The problem was never the strategy, but the fact that you were an unstable variable trying to solve an equation that requires ice in your veins. It was only when I hit rock bottom, on that freezing morning, that I realized the way out of the labyrinth didn't require more brute force, but a radical surrender. I stopped fighting the chart and started fighting my own biology through a technique of detachment that, to an outsider, looks like financial suicide. The turning point didn't come from a new miracle indicator or some secret NASA algorithm. It came from something much simpler and, therefore, much harder to execute, what I call the monastic code. The first step of this reconfiguration was accepting, once and for all, that my own will was my greatest liability. To neutralize this risk, I implemented the set and forget technique. The plan is drawn while the market is closed, the orders are sent, and the platform is shut down. Period. If I feel I need to watch the chart to feel safe, I'm not trading. I'm just drooling over a slot machine waiting for a divine sign. To measure my progress, I created the detachment metric. It's a cold physiological calculation. If the result of a trade gain or loss changes my heart rate by more than 5 beats per minute, my position size is too large for my emotional maturity. If you feel a gut punch when a stop is hit, you aren't an investor. You're just a gambler who bit off more than they could chew. The elite don't seek entry precision. They seek the Machiavellian virtue of knowing exactly when not to play. In my new system, inactivity became treated as a profitable position. Staying out while the market is erratic isn't a missed opportunity. It's protecting the capital that will be used when the landscape is clear. Before every execution, I follow an absolute neutrality checklista psychologica pre-flight map. If I feel a hint of anxiety, a gram of euphoria, or the slightest need to recover what I lost yesterday, the platform isn't even opened. Discipline doesn't come after profit to protect it. It precedes profit to allow it to exist. I began operating under the strategy of the lion and the fox. I act with the patience of the fox, who observes the terrain, studies the wind, and waits for hours, motionless, only to strike with the brute force of a lion in a 30-second pounce. The rest of the time is pure silence and observation. I replaced hope, which is a terminal illness in the financial market, with cold statistical probability. Trading stopped being an adrenaline sport and became an industrial process of repeating edges. I don't want to be right. I want my mathematical advantage to manifest over 1,000 trades. To ensure this, I established the silence protocol: 0 social media, 0 news portals, 0 signal groups. Trading is a solitary prayer of focus. When you stop seeking outside validation for your trades, you finally start hearing what the price is saying, rather than what your ego wants it to say. This architecture of isolation and logic turned chaos into an assembly line. The chart stopped being a monster I tried to tame and became just a sea of data devoid of emotional charge. But this technical coldness generated a side effect I didn't expect. By removing the pain of loss, I also removed the euphoria of gaining. It was exactly in that emotional void that the money began to overflow in a way I never imagined possible. I finally understood that I was no longer playing the game. I had become the house, and when you become the house, luck ceases to be a factor and time starts working in your favor. The real transformation happens when profit stops being a source of euphoria and becomes merely the inevitable byproduct of a well-executed system. It's a shift in frequency. When the money comes in, you no longer feel that punch of dopamine in your chest. What you feel is the same peace an engineer feels seeing a gear fit perfectly into place, because now it's just logic manifesting in physical form. I stopped chasing the market like a stray dog chasing a car and started waiting, like a predator that knows every habit of its prey. I know she'll eventually have to drink water at the same spot, and my only job is to be there, motionless, waiting for the exact moment. The final result of all this wasn't just a 7-figure account or the power to buy whatever I wanted without looking at the price, because, in the end, that's the least of it. The real prize was what I call cognitive freedom, that rare ability to remain absolutely undisturbed while the chaos outside tries to drag you under. Today, the chart is a data desert to me. I am no longer the player trying my luck at the roulette wheel. I have become the casino, and in my casino, mathematical advantage is the supreme law that no one, not even the most volatile market in the world, has the power to revoke. This almost monastic discipline taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Money is a terrible master, a dictator that enslaves you through fear and greed, but it becomes an excellent slave when you stop worshiping the golden calf. It begins to serve you in silence. The naked truth is that you will never conquer the market until you have conquered yourself in those dark hours of the early morning, when no one is watching but your own conscience. If you still feel trapped in this exhausting cycle of celebrating victory like a madman and falling into depression and defeat, understand one thing: the exit door isn't technical. It's not a new setup, a miracle indicator, or a faster computer. The door is purely behavioral, and the cruelest detail is that it only opens from the inside. If you've felt this strategic board made sense for where you are, perhaps it's time to stop trading like a victim and start thinking like the owner of the table. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to calibrate your algorithm with this kind of mindset. The system is logical, but the execution is entirely yours. I'll see you at the next level.